So I am Kirk Lewis. That's Kirk like Captain Kirk. So and if you go out into the parking lot and you think about the name, you'd probably be able to figure out which car's mine because my license plates say "Beam Me Up." So yeah, you got to get creative every once in a while. You got to embrace the name when you've been called Kirk, even though I am older than the show. So I don't know where they came up with the name, but so I work for Lighting for Impact. I am the senior inside sales representative and the only estimator in the building. Last year we did about 1,150 estimates. Lighting for Impact primarily is an LED lighting company specializing in retail and retail product. So you can find our products in Hy-Vee, Super C, EasyGo. So we primarily live in the convenience and supermarket realm. Checkout, HBC, those types, and HBC, health and beauty care, in case those need terminology explanations. So like when you are shopping at Hy-Vee and you're getting ready to check out and you get up there and they've got these candy racks and they have beautiful illumination on them. That was courtesy of Lighting for Impact. We've done about 60,000 installs across the US in the last 10 years. The company is 10 years old, founded by two gentlemen, one of which was a serial entrepreneur. He happened to pass away in December of 2019, succumbed to cancer. His name was Elmer Wessel. And Elmer founded, let's start at the beginning, Industrial Mechanical Services, of which while he was at IMS, he got one of his first patents of many on the mechanical aerator for your yard. So he was a mechanical engineer, brilliant man, serial entrepreneur, like I said. After IMS, he founded Source One. Source One is a sheet metal manufacturing company. And if you've ever been to a women's volleyball game in the Devaney Center, when they moved from the old Memorial Stadium to Devaney, they wanted to bring certain elements of the old building with, so the grid work that's up above, that was manufactured at Source One. And the chief engineer and general manager at Lighting for Impact designed that system when he was at Source One with Elmer. So after that, then Elmer also founded Bison Industries. If you have any kids that play sports, Bison Industries makes basketball goals, softball equipment, holders, things like that. And then the other founder is Cam Clater. Cam Clater spent a lifetime as an M&M Mars representative. So that's where, and they're both native Nebraskans. Cam happens to live in Maryland currently, but they had known each other for years, grew up kind of together, had a lifelong friendship. And when Cam decided he needed to sell more candy, so he approached Elmer and said, how can we collaborate together? You figure out something from an engineering aspect that lets me sell more candy. Thus, Lighting for Impact was born. So basically what it is, it's a system that has a rail, this black vertical piece on the back, that then we can plug in certain componentry to, whether that's lights or if it's a light up little square that's a backlit panel that may say Almay beauty care products and stuff. And sometimes you'll see all those light things above something that'll have a lighted header panel. All of that can run off of this. So what we do is we bring low power voltage to a retail shelf. This rail would rest on behind the shelving there's usually a big sheet of pegboard, and that's where it lives back there. Comes in, this power transformer comes into what we call a PIC. So this is a power input converter. So it takes power from the transformer and converts it to run the power up and down this rail. And all of these colored boxes are called POCs, they're power outputs. So they take the power that's running from the rail and output it to whatever you want down the road. So this light, for instance, that's magnetic, and would rest up under the shelf, and then this little cord would go back to a POC that's on the rail behind it. So this rests way up under the shelf and then illuminates product down. These two products are a little bit unique in that they are different than all of the other ones. They light product up and down at the same time, which is, no one else in the industry does that. We have patents on both of these products. We're the only ones that can. So typically we're going to illuminate a product from the top down, which is what you see all the time. But if you can light the product from the top and the bottom, every facing of the product gets two lights on it, one that hits it from the top and one that hits it from the bottom. So we have found over the years that illumination, we just ran a test in a, let me see, I can't use their name, so a major Midwest grocery and convenience store retailer that happens to have 5 stores in the city of Lincoln. I don't know who that might be. So we ran a third quarter 2021 versus third quarter 2022 in one of their convenience stores. We lit all of their candy, we lit all of their spirits, we lit all of their breakfast foods. Those 3 categories, we compared it to 2021 with no illumination, 2022 with illumination. Their product sales went up 38%, and all we did was put light on it. Now it made sense on their breakfast foods because it was behind the checkout counter and you couldn't see it, it was really dark. That one made sense. The other ones didn't make a whole lot of sense to us. It was one of the largest return on investments that we had seen in the history of 10 years worth of. So we know that it works, and that's one of the 3 questions that we say, well, why lights? And we go, well, because it works. It's going to increase your sales, it's going to increase your profitability, it's going to give you the fastest ROI of anything that we know of in the grocery industry or the convenience industry. So your ROI is generally about 5 or 6 months. So anytime you can invest in your company and get all of your money back within the first 6 months, everything else past that's pretty good. We have a 5-year warranty, so we'll replace any of these that go bad in the first 5 years. So you've bought it once, you'll get them free for the next 5 years. I mean, so once that gets to that point, and then we say, well, why LED now? And it's like, well, why not? If you can increase your sales 38 to 40%, why would you want to wait for something? And then we also say, well, why lighting for impact? Well, because we have a 5-year warranty, we have the easiest return on investment that we know of in any of those industries. And we're very innovative. The thing that sets us apart is our wire management. You can see this is a spiral cord that has little cords around it. This particular cord has magnets that are shrink wrapped in it. So when you put this on the bottom of your metal shelf, you just push this up and it sucks up against all of that. We offer in different temperatures. So LED comes in what we call temperatures. So this one is warm. It's got a little golden glow to it. You'll see this in your house a lot. So above cabinet, under cabinet lighting, that's a pretty popular one. This one is natural. So it's a little bit of a bump. There's a little more white in that natural. This one is pure. That's our standard because it's just white. So all it's going to do is highlight your product. It's not going to change the product color. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to warm it up. It's not going to dumb it down. It's not going to do any of those. And then we can also do, this one is pure with a diffuser, because a lot of times people don't like that diode look. So we'll just put a diffuser on that. There is a brand new technology out called COB, which is circuit on board. This, you can see we have about 17 diodes per foot on this. COB has 84 diodes per foot. So they're really super close to one another, and it looks more neon than it does. Since they're so close, it's almost impossible to distinguish where the actual diodes are. So it looks like a rope light, but it's still this intense. And then we have Here, this one's like the granddaddy of them. So that would be what we would call a wall washer. So generally these live one on each shelf. This one can live at the top and light all the shelves, just because it's a bit more intense. We also have a larger version of this that's 3 times brighter than this one. So it will throw a light beam about 11 feet. So, because perimeters of stores, especially if you're dealing with HBC, any of the shelving that's along the walls are generally 84 inches tall. So we need something that can really bathe that whole entire thing with light. We've been in business, like I said, for 10 years. We have a really, really good product. I've seen a lot of products, and this one is really, really good. I have been in the store supply business since 1989. As a company, we have, I don't know, probably 30 patents. I have 9. Because we're super innovative. We look at retail different than anybody else does. We figure out ways to make our product better all the time. We never stop innovating. And I think that's an important lesson that you can learn in your business. As everybody was introducing themselves, I'm going, well, I don't really know, if it used to be Nebraska Buffalo had something here, Nebraska Bison, and okay, now that's a product that if they're going to market, then it's like, okay, if you're going to build displays for your product, just put a light on it, because I can guarantee you're going to sell more of it if you put it on there. It's been proven time and time and time again. Every study that's been done over the last 30 years, illumination on products will sell more. And the one that we just did, we were shocked at those numbers. But that, I don't know if that was an anomaly. We had never had numbers like that before. But it did not really surprise us that the numbers went up.
Traditionally, what were your return on investments before you did it?
Generally, it took about 8 months for return on investment, still under a year, but then the percentage, we usually hovered in around 12 to 15% and a bump for your sales increase. When we got a 38, it was like, okay, that's just weird. And it was the store at the corner of 84th and Holdridge, which is a growing area, so we thought, all right, surely foot traffic made the difference. They had a 3% bump in their foot traffic in that same time period. So it wasn't the fact that there were just a whole bunch more people shopping there. The people that were shopping there were just buying more. And we were like, okay, why are they buying more? The only thing that we did different in that 2-year period was put light on it.
But since then, as part of that, on that no-name store at 84th and Holdridge. Hi, how are you? No,
yeah, that one.
but anyway, they have repositioned their whole candy division. I don't know what you guys are like.
Yes, now that one's inside. Where ours was in their convenience store.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. Yeah. Now we still, at that store, we still own the candy sections at checkout.
Okay.
We've not done, I am working on trying to get that candy bunker, as they call it.
Just blew that thing up about 10 times.
Yeah, they did.
Put it at a main aisle and moved other things.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we want this product up and down, because they have pushers on those that self-face all of their products. Pushers are really difficult because they put that, it's got a little glass bar on the front of it, which,
Got all the hooks.
yep, yes.
So I see you plugging and unplugging, so are the lights always on then? Or is it
Yes, they stay on 24/7, yep.
And then do you manufacture your lighting, or do you have a distributor that manufactures for you?
It's a little bit combination of both. We get most of our raw componentry from Asia, but we assemble here.
How do you test your lights before they hit the shelves?
They are all UL tested, and we don't actually test, well, if we are assembling, we plug every one of them in before we put it in a box, because we have multiple power stations throughout the assembly portion. We're a small company, there's only 9 of us, so we're super lean. Yes, ma'am.
A couple of huge advantages of that is that the LED uses less energy,
Mhm.
cost effective, and it's not melting your product so like some
Correct.
of the others.
Yep.
So you're seeing it, and especially with food or cosmetics or something, they have, the temperature
Yeah.
or whatever. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, if we're putting LED on what we would call an entire checkout, so part of it goes over the belt, which has about 3 or 4, and then there's a big giant rack that's got about 8 rows that go down. And if we're doing that on both sides of that, so one unit serves the actual shopping part, the other one serves to the right when you're going in that lane and there's candy there, and then there's also the other one on the left for the belt. So this unit that would be here costs the retailer about 80 watts a day, and that's it. So like running one light bulb per day is the energy that this takes. And we're lighting nearly 20 shelves. So, yes.
So do you see a change in sales over time? And what I mean by that is when you first install the product, the repeat customers in the store are probably going to buy more because it catches their eye.
They do.
And over time they get used. They get used to the light. Do you see a spike in sales, then a drop off, or does it stay constant?
No, generally once it gets up there, it stays there. Because, yep, surprisingly enough, only because there's always extra people, and we live in impulse. So those impulses don't stop once. They just, we just make it easier to see them. So it's like, oh, look, there's a candy bar. I think I need one of those. Well, maybe I need 2 of them. Because that's what we have found over the time is that product that is illuminated versus product that is non-illuminated, shoppers will select twice as many products from the illuminated one than they do from non-illuminated. Doesn't mean they buy it, but they'll pick up twice as many products because it's got light on it. So the chances of your sales going up because somebody has picked up something twice as often as they wouldn't, it's like, okay, so that's where those numbers come from, anywhere from 12 to 40. So, and that just keeps going because the next time they're still standing in that candy lane and they go, dang, it's that same candy bar, I better get that one too. So, yeah.
So what is your barrier to sales?
What is our barrier to sales? Adaptation by and acceptance by the retailer. They think this is difficult when it's really not. This system is the easiest system. I mean, literally, you plug this rail in and you just plug a light back to it. You can actually install this fully merchandised because we go behind everything. This rail is about that thick, so we can slide it in behind the product, and then you just take the cord back to the little box that's sitting on there. But retailers believe that this is a difficult process, and so they're like, I don't want to tear my store apart to put that in. So if you can get them to convince to say, hey, let us do one, and once we do that one, then I think you'll be convinced. Because for 2 reasons. They'll see how easy it is, and their sales are going to go up. Yes?
Is the cost a barrier because they look at it and it's like, okay, I don't want to put that money. So if you have like a printout or something that can show, once this, like your 38% would be a huge, okay, this is what happened when we installed the
Yep.
product.
We do have that. It's the most challenging thing from that aspect is that nobody's store is the same. So we can't just say you can light your candy rack for $385 because this candy rack may have 9 shelves on it. The next candy rack may have 6. And so that's really difficult. We don't sell a canned product. We literally customize the system for every store that we get. So they send in a blueprint, we tear it all down and say, this is what you need, this is how many lights you need, this is where you're going to put your power, this is what the power is, this is how many screws you need, this is how many R-clips you need, this is how many rivets you need. I mean, all of it is broken down to the microscopic detail because the whole system has to work the first time. Because if it doesn't work the first time, they'll be more reluctant the second time to try it.
What's
Yeah.
your install time? say, somebody says, well, I'm gonna let you do this area, and I realize the number of shelves.
Yeah.
Typical, well, let's say a checkout area, where you're doing that. Do they come in after hours? How do you, when you got a 24/7 or a
Yep.
27?
Ideally, we want to go in when the store is being constructed. That's our goal, is to, so we have relationships with, I mean, we've done 60,000 installs across the U.S. And so we have relationships with large retailers and large convenience store chains. And so once we get that relationship to a certain degree, we can say, hey, we need to go in before any of your products on, just because it's easier. So, yeah, so that's a complicated question to answer because it depends on when we go in. But let's say one of our largest customers is Love's Travel Stops. And we have done every Love's Travel Stop that's new in the last 8 years. So anytime that you're traveling out and you go into a Love's, and I mean, we literally light everything in a Love's. I don't think there's a single fixture in that building that does not have a lighting for impact light on it. It is crazy the amount of light we do. But we can do a Love's install in about 9 hours.
Really? The whole store?
The whole store. Yeah. So we go in one day, and we have one installation supervisor. She's out of Chicago, and she does all the Love's, and she has all the Love's people trained, but they don't necessarily install for us. They gather things because they knew where it all came from, and then they'll set them out in front of and she'll just run through the store and set up every 4-foot section and say, okay, now we're done.
She does the install?
She does the install, yeah.
Would say, how about interaction with other subs, like a positioning of other electrical outlets?
Yep.
Who coordinates that? Do you do that?
She generally coordinates anything that has to do with installation. And we have 3 she's one, then we have one on the East Coast, we have one on the West Coast, and then we have relationships with jobbers that do that for us. So she coordinates all of that. We have a power pole system, because that's one of the main deterrents is power.
That's good.
Because most of these stores weren't thinking, oh, we're going to put lights in them, so they don't put an outlet in the floor. And then some retailers are reluctant to put a power pole drop because it messes up sight lines and all those things. Our power pole drop is about that wide by 2 inches, so it's 2 by 1.5 inches. It's a very small power pole drop. We are toying with figuring out a way to message that, which would be kind of cool, because then not only does that power pole bring in power to the light fixture, it would also say Hershey's 3 for $1 or something like that. So we're trying to figure out a way to, put a banner up and down that as well. And it would probably be LED oriented. If not, we know how to power whatever it is that we're going to put in there, whether it's a vertical screen that's only 2 inches wide. So there's a lot of things that we can do with that power pole, but that's one of the deterrents is power. But if they have power there, it's easy, real easy. And one of the things that we have an advantage of, if let's say you have 2 sections that are next to one another, you can put this strip in the middle of those 2 sections and lights can run back to both of them. We're the only system that I know of that does it that way. Everybody else has to power every section. Yes?
You mentioned that you have several patents on this product specifically. What are your patents?
Well, the fact that this lights up and down is patentable because that's utility. And so that part was fairly simple. The way that this light is constructed inside here, each one of these little cups has a reflector in the back of it to reflect that out. So it's kind of like the old, you'd be in a barn and you'd flip the little switch and had that concept in miniature. Plus there's little tiny facets inside of it. So the light doesn't just reflect out, it bounces back and forth before it goes out. So it kind of accumulates on itself before it goes zapping out the front. And you can actually see that when you get up in there, you can see there's probably 600 or 700 of them in one of these little things. They're just little tiny, boxes that reflect the light back and forth. Yes, yeah. The other parts, how this channel is constructed So this is an extruded aluminum channel, but in order for us to snap this diffuser in it, inside the top of that channel, there's a small little tiny groove, and so the diffuser has an upward tilt to it. Those have a downward tilt, so that it just snaps in through there. So the way that this rail is actually extruded is patentable. So, I mean, our engineers are brilliant. I mean, and so we have lots and lots. We can put any of this on motion. So, yes.
So if you look at a grocery store, there are several products that they sell. Some of them are going to benefit from the lighting, some are not.
Correct.
So percentage-wise, what percentage of the products that a grocery store sells would benefit from
See, the average grocery store.
Is the problem that you're solving a shark bite or a mosquito bite?
Well, there's generally about 60,000 SKUs in the average grocery store,
Okay.
and probably 15 or 20,000 of those would benefit from having light on them. So it's about a third of the products that are canned goods. Not gonna probably, who cares? It's a can of green beans, all of HBC, all of candy, anything that has well, produce already generally has light on it already that's built into the actual cabinet that comes with it. So produce already has light in it, and when you think about this system, this would be open. It's really difficult to protect this from any moisture that would happen in produce. So we don't have a really good alternative at this point for that. We are working on, of course, because we're always working on something. So that's probably our next big push is going to be, how can we make this go into moist environments? Because typically today, moist environments are lit by fluorescent, which is a very old technology compared to LED. So we're going to bring LED to the cooler if we can. We've just got to figure out the best way to do that.
I know it's not a big market, but have you checked into like the doctors and physicians' offices, because they're starting to carry some of their own brands of either makeup, moisturizer, fill in the blank?
I don't know that we've targeted particularly in physician offices, but we have like Massage Envy and places like that. Massage Envy uses our lights, for their beauty care products, and it's just a little, it's a thing this big, and it's got 10 shelves on it. But you think about 3,000 Massage Envies, we'll take this times 10. So.
I know some of the dermatologists here in Lincoln, they promote their own products.
Mhm.
They could have like something like that for the candy, only their own products.
Yep.
When you walk in, you would be, that would be, oh, there's a light up there, what are they highlighting?
Yep, exactly.
It would be beneficial for them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have 9 people in the whole company, so for us to spread.
Going to that, getting away from product, tell us a little bit more about your vision, where you've been, where you are now, what are your core values, and where do you see yourself going?
Well, it's interesting because when we started, we thought we were only going to do candy, literally. And now we do all of HB's. We have a few large customers. There is a grocery store chain called Ahold Delhaize. Used to be from Germany. They came over, and they on the East Coast they own Stop and Shop, Giant Food, Giant Eagle, Hannaford, and a couple others. And in their stable they have roughly 1,400 stores, something like that. We do every one of theirs in HBC. And we have been doing that for quite some time. So we have somewhat grown in some unexpected areas, because at first we just thought, well, we're going to live in checkout, we're going to sell more candy, then we're going to help people sell candy. But now we help them sell HBC, and we help them sell automotive products, because that's actually a pretty good category. Automotive's kind of weird because automotive has a tendency to be dark. And so we're going to add some light into those automotive areas that are super dark, especially in convenience. At first, we were convenience under the checkout only. Now we're convenience everywhere. We're in the center store of convenience, where they've got nuts, and because nuts are all hanging on pegs, and we actually run one of these rails on top of all those pegs and get each row of the peg, as opposed to putting a big light like this at the top. We can light every single row of pegs by putting clips on these, and they just sit down. Plus, it really makes their store look good, because if you've ever been in some stores and their pegs, even though they're all in the same place, they go like this. You clip one of these on there, and that peg row becomes straight as a rail, because it's got an aluminum extrusion clipped on the top of it with the light shining down on that bag that's about that far down from it. So it's beautiful, and it sits under there. So, you know, we're super innovative from those things. Cam, who's now the only owner, sole owner, because Elmer passed away in 2019 from cancer. So Cam has visions of, he has grandiose plans that he hasn't completely shared with everybody, but we are branching out. The next biggest thing for us are micro markets. So when you go to a hospital and they've got in their, you know, waiting room, well, not necessarily a waiting room, but in their employee lounge, there'll be just this, hey, go over here, self-pay with your credit card and all that stuff. That's our next. Airports host all of those things. That is our next big push, is owning the micro market area. And we have a new salesperson who has some really inroads in that, and he's going to probably get us into those, because micro markets, like there's a company called Canteen, for instance, which kind of makes sense. Canteen has 20,000 locations across the US, and he has a very good in with Canteen. So I suspect that that's going to be our next big growth area, is through micro markets.
So you're sourcing your own raw materials from Asia.
Yes.
Why are you doing assembly in the United States as a local?
Well, we do a combination of both. So generally what we buy from Asia is, retailers they have two shelf sizes. One's 4 feet wide and one's 3 feet wide. So we buy the 4-foot component completely assembled from Asia, and the 3-foot component completely assembled from Asia. But what happens when they have an 18-inch shelf, or what happens when they have a wing panel, which is that little wire thing that hangs on the side? When you go to Walmart and at the end of every row, they've got this little wing panel. It's got all little tiny impulse things on it. That's 12 inches wide, so we got to put a 10-inch light on there. So we'll construct that. We'll deconstruct a 3-foot to make a 10-inch out of it. So we do a little combination of both. So typically in Asia is, hey, here's our stock raw things, because we do sell a lot of 48-inch in black with a magnet on it, like this one. So we sell, that's the number one, so without the diffuser. That's the number one that we sell of anywhere. And so we'll have to construct things. Let's say they want this light to be shorter. This is a super complex light, so we have to deconstruct that whole entire thing, cut off what we can, reconstruct it, put all the brackets back on it, and sell that. Because like every retailer is different, and we want to be able to adapt our product line on the fly to make sure that we don't say no to that retailer if we can.
So were you having issues with getting your products in during COVID?
No, we did not have any issues whatsoever. Now, we had issues last year with the freight snafu in California. Typically, we can ocean freight something and we will get it in about 40 days. During that period, we were at 160 days in getting that in there. And half the time, the boat was in California, and then 100 days later, we'd get it. So it still took them about 40 days to get it to California, then it took them another 100 to get it to us. It was very difficult. So we did see that coming a little bit, and so we beefed up our inventory. So we were never out in all of that time period, even when all of the longshoremen and all that was going on in California did not affect our ability to deliver on time.
What do you see as your biggest challenge?
Sustainable growth is probably our biggest challenge, because we can't grow drastically fast, because we're like anybody else currently. It's very difficult to find labor. And so for us to be able to sustain a heavy amount of growth, which we anticipate doing, we need more production people, we need more pickers in the, we probably need to grow from 9 to 12 people, and to find 3 people in today's, it's almost impossible. And so finding the, exactly. And when you're a picker in a warehouse, that's work, Or we would love to have a second estimator. But that's, that's brain work and being able to figure out, that's a jigsaw puzzle every day. If you don't like to do jigsaw puzzles, you shouldn't be an estimator, because that's really what it is. Here's our floor plan. What are you going to sell me to light it up all the way down to the screw? So that is a big challenge, is finding labor.
Have you figured out, or have you developed a program that can help your estimator that, okay, this is what I need, thus, rather than telling people, okay, this is what it is? I would presume you've developed, or they have developed some type of program to help this specific.
Well, not a program specific, but within our estimating program, I have taken, it's not terribly uncommon for somebody to say, hey, I have a 16-foot gondola. There's 4 sections of 4 feet on each side with 2 end caps, and each one of those has 8 shelves. I have built that already in. So when somebody gets one of those, I just go to that file and I say, okay, I need one of these, but they don't have 8 shelves, they've got 6. And then the only thing I have to change is how many shelves are going on it, and maybe how much power it takes. Possibly, but everything else is already constructed. You already know how many screws are in there. You already know how many strips. All of that's already there. So it does help to make shortcuts. It just took a while for me to build enough of them to go, okay, there's enough of them now to figure out, okay, that's a 12-foot or a 16-foot. Or I did them all with 4-foot, and somebody may come up and they say, well, I've got a 4-foot, or I've got 4 sections, but they're all 3 feet long, so it's only a 12-foot island instead of a 16-foot island. Well, then that's just a matter of going and saying, hey, I don't need a 46-inch light, I need a 34.5-inch light. So everything else will be identical. Again, with the exception of maybe power.
Can I get a strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threat analysis, please?
Strengths are the ability to change on the fly. Weakness is labor, right now. The other two are a little more challenging because we are the best in the industry at what we do. So I guess maybe trying to stay the best and stay innovative would be one of our opportunities, because you can't be stale with a product, especially in something like this. When you're wanting to grow, the more innovative you are, the more you can bring something to the table. Which, for instance, right now we have this. This is an aluminum extrusion. So this is what we call a J channel, because if you turn it sideways, it kind of looks like a J. So, but what we found was this has 2 little cams in it, and those cams swivel up. So when you've got a C channel on the front of your retail shelf and you stick this thing in, the bottom snaps into the bottom part, and then the cam swivels up and catches up here. Well, retail takes a tool to install it. It's aluminum, so it's more expensive. So we redeveloped that with that COB technology, the chip on board, the stuff that looks like a neon, and we extruded it in plastic. And we put a little clip on the bottom, so that C channel, that clip goes around it and then snaps in at the top. No tools, a better look, and we flattened the angles so that we get a light that goes straight up and down as opposed to slightly backward. Because when it goes slightly backward, it hits the product too early at the bottom. So we wanted to flatten that to really shine up the front. So again, we're being innovative. Even though we had that product, the new one's better. And we're going to keep this one because there are certain areas that this works that others don't. For instance, if you've got a wire shelf that has a front lip on it and then they weld a little C channel on that, the wire that's on the back of that when that C channel is welded on the front, we can't grab it because there's nothing there. So this is the only one that works there. So we haven't obsoleted this, we just made it better. And so, and then weaknesses is, well, again, labor. This is going to be what it is.
Any other questions? Good, lots of questions today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kirk.
Yep.
Give a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Next week, Trent Wilcox from Unanimous will be here. He's the president. So if it works for your schedule, we would love to have you come next week. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
My husband's card here.
How do you think you'll win, Amy?
Oh, he talked to me earlier because he wants to put these in your kitchen.
Well, did you get his card? He's an electrical engineer and he specializes in automated test. And so he helps companies set up devices to test their functionalities. That's why I asked about test. He helps create the devices. They plunk it in. It sends data to test their products. So, but yeah, we need this in our house because what we have isn't working right now.